Nicks and bruises. We are back in the building. Got my guy Josh in the building. Salute to you. Yo, Black, it's time. Josh, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. I mean, the Knicks have a couple days off, so it's Monday, so we got our normal lineup going. So I'm just happy to be on, and let's go Knicks.
That's a fact, man. Happy to have you again, as always. Um, it's been a rough week for me. I didn't really get to see any of the last three games in its entirety. I know all the outcomes. I seen probably the first quarter of each and the last quarter because I've been, trying to get this Christmas money basically.
Right,
um,
right.
but we're gonna talk about it on Queens Court. But I predicted 3-0, and I was feeling myself from having a good week of predictions the previous week, and yeah, I dropped the ball. We didn't win one game. Today I kind of want to focus on some trade rumors and what do we think a trade is necessary to change this thing around. First off, shout out to the chat. But yeah, Josh, what do you think, man? I know you was Mr. Trade guy going back to 2 years ago, and I doubt much has changed in that aspect. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
So typically, I'm not a fan of making trades mid-season. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that unless it's at the deadline. But I just don't think I'm not unless you're bringing back a superstar or a star player. I will be opposed to going out making a trade. However, this team definitely needs to improve. I feel like the time to improve the team was in the offseason, and the front office dropped the ball, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Um, as of right now, I think the Knicks just need to keep battling, keep on fighting. Try to find some answers within the team. Maybe Tibbs can try to mix it up a little bit more. But right now it's a tough situation because this is the team that we thought were going to be better than what they are. I don't think they're terrible, even with the lineup changes and before the lineup change. I don't think they were terrible, but they were still building. And it's just at this point you just gotta fight through it and keep playing. So at this point, I wouldn't make any trades mid-season unless we bring it back a superstar.
That definitely surprises me from you. Um, but I think, well, first let me start off by saying I only think they make a trade if it's for a superstar.
Okay.
I don't think they make anything less of a blockbuster. Um, I don't think they make a minor move. Um, Even the thoughts of Derrick Rose coming into the trade last year, I don't think that was considered a blockbuster,
No,
but
not at all.
ultimately I think it had blockbuster effect. I
Yeah.
think for Tibbs, it might have been considered a blockbuster. Like what I mean, you have to do it, and the asking price wasn't high, so it kind of made it a no brainer. But I don't think we make a move of that magnitude or less. So I think it's gonna be something that has to be bigger than the Derrick Rose trade. Um, Otherwise, I don't think we do it.
Right.
Um, do you think there's a chance of a trade? And coming from what you said previously, this is going to be down the line trade deadline. But do you think there's a chance we make a smaller move, a smaller trade?
I mean, I think at the deadline and everything is on the table because it is the deadline. A lot of teams are going to be moving pieces around, things of that nature. I think it's just a wait and see mode. It depends on how the Knicks are going to play for the next 20 or so games. Once they get to that halfway point, how is this team doing? How is it stacking up against other teams in the Eastern Conference? And I think that's when Leon Rose and Scott Perry are going to decide, what's going to be best for this team. But generally, and shout out to my man C Mac. He said Damian Lillard is not coming here. Don't let ESPN Josh get into your head. Um, I didn't bring up Damian Lillard one time. I haven't brought him up yet. But anyway, I just think that come the trade deadline, everything is going to be on the table. I mean, I personally would prefer to have a superstar coming here, especially if he's going to be available because outside of free agency, when is it ever going to be another time to get a superstar player? right? And I think the Knicks have all the assets to be able to go ahead and do that, right? So I'm open to anything. I want a star player, but I think it has to be at the deadline. I think that's when a lot of teams are going to be making their moves.
All right. Shout out to the chat, of course. C Mac, we're gonna get into Dame in a second. But nobody mentioned him yet. Right? We about to. And Senga says maybe we need a strong personality. I mean, the strong the strongest personality we have right now is probably Tibbs, and I think we have enough guys who've dealt with him over the years, and enough guys. I don't know if we need a stronger personality. I don't know. Maybe be a little bit more specific in that, and I could agree, but I don't think the personality is necessarily um the problem. But yeah, let's talk. Let's get right into Dame Lillard. Speaking of ESPN, you know, what's his name? Stephen A. says that's where his preferable destination is if he's traded is New York. Um, this is not new news. I think this was reported last year as well. Um, I like Dame. It's gonna cost a lot to get him. I do think we have enough to get him if that's the direction we want to go. I think we have enough, honestly, to make any move that's out there. It's just a matter of what are you willing to give up. But you know what I mean? I think we have the pieces. Um, but for the cost, I'm still not sure if I would pursue that route. I would try to go a different route, which I'm gonna get into in a little bit as well. But what do you think about Dame? Fit? What it's gonna cost? Um, and if that's the direction you think we should go.
So Tone, I mean, in the offseason, I addressed this. I addressed the Damian Lillard thing. I think the Knicks can't be able to go out and get Damian Lillard with the amount of assets that they have. And, people are, thinking that, the Knicks are going to have to give up all of these players, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like that if you get a third and potentially a fourth team involved. When you get a third team involved and you start trading and doing business, teams have, different reasons why they want to get rid of contracts and move players. Maybe it's just not working out. So I think that's going to be the best possible route for the Knicks to acquire Damian Lillard. Let's do it through a three-team trade. I think Golden State is kind of off the table now because they're doing well. They're tops in the Western Conference. I think they're number one or number two or something like that. So that trade partner is kind of out of there. But you got a team like Philly who's still trying to get rid of Ben Simmons' contract. They're going to be willing to get rid of him. Potentially Brooklyn, if Brooklyn wants to move Kyrie Irving, I think that's definitely a possibility that's on the table, right? So the Knicks can definitely pull this move off, and I think being that the Blazers signed Dame to a $50 million contract, $50 million per year. What's going on, Queen?
How's everybody?
Salute.
Good. I think if because of that contract, people are kind of turned off by it. But listen, Damian Lillard is worth that money, and especially in Portland, a small market team. That they had to pay him that money to keep him there, to keep fans coming to the arena. So that's the reason why he's making that amount. I know people are kind of turned off by that, but I think if you put Damian Lillard, who's a point guard, feels a need for the team, combine him with Julius Randle, I think this team can make some noise in the Eastern Conference. I think we can have some sufficient enough pieces around those two to be able to compete in the Eastern Conference. I truly believe that.
I mean, I agree as far as his fit with Randall. I agree that we would be significantly better. The only thing I disagree with you is I don't think we need to involve a third team for to make it happen. But that being said, I think it's gonna cost us a lot. Like a lot of the pieces that we do have. Probably you're looking at three young guys of their choice, maybe the pick of three out of four of their choice, and you know probably all the draft picks, three or more first round picks in the
Tone, do you
future.
know how many first round draft picks the Knicks have in the next 5 years?
I'm not worried about the picks. We have enough.
Okay, no,
Seven,
I'm
seven,
just
right?
saying because Portland doesn't. I don't think they have any first round picks next
Yeah,
year.
they don't.
So they're more pick hungry than player hungry, right? And I think the money still has to match up, and you still have to make sure you get some money going back the other way. But that's why I think it's important to have a third team involved, and then to try to mitigate that the money situation. Anytime you bring a third team into a trade, it's for money. It's just try to make the money work and find where that money can go. Maybe Portland takes some draft compensation from us, and they take some players from another team, right? And I think we can do it that way, and I think that'll help us out, so we won't have to give up as much.
I,
Depending on
all I'm saying is with the third team, it doesn't always make it easier. To me, I think it makes it more difficult to make it work because now you need three people to be happy instead of two. Sometimes it works, but I think it takes a lot to make it work. I'm not against the three team. I'm just saying I don't think we have to go that route. If we go that route, yeah, I think we give up less. I obviously, or the hit is not as bad. Welcome, Queen. Thank you for joining as always.
Of
Um,
course. How's everybody?
we
What up?
we were heated in the debate, so I had to
Oh,
you know
that's fine.
get
not really, not
get
really.
it get it off our chest. But yeah, we're just talking about trade rumors and do
Yeah.
you my question to Josh was because I don't think we make a trade unless it's a blockbuster, unless it's for a superstar. I don't think there's a small trade that is on the radar, if you will. So your thoughts on that, and then you could jump right into your thoughts on Dame, and if you think we have enough to make that move, and if you think we would.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't put a small trade out of the realm of possibility. Um, but I would agree. I'm not sure a small trade is going to fix this. Um, unless you believe that it's just a gel problem, it's just the team gelling, and maybe a small trade, if it fits, would help the team come together. That's a possibility. But I think the bigger question, and we'll talk about it even more on the Queen's Court, shameless plug, is the Knicks have to make a decision. The Knicks have to make a decision, and I said this last year. We either trade in Randall and we going young, or we trade in these young players for players that can help us win now. You got to make a decision because the players we have now, let's face it, they just not good enough. Mitch hasn't improved since his rookie year, other than not getting in foul trouble. How much you gonna expect for IQ and Obi, even though they have improved? Randall is still getting used to his role of being a number one. You know what I mean? I think we got to get bona fide players here that are used to playing. They've been playing at whatever level they've been playing at for a few years, and they're used to it. And in order to get those type of players, you're going to have to give up somebody. And I think that's something that the Knicks front office is going to have to seriously consider. Um, because when you do that, all of these other guys that will remain on the team, they go down a peck in terms of what you're expecting of them on a daily basis. And that might be easier for them. Maybe we're asking too much of these guys. As far as Dame is concerned, I'm okay with it. I'm not concerned about the money. I'm concerned about I'm not concerned about how many assets we have to give up. Quite frankly, you got to give to get.
Mhm.
I'm just concerned more about that window of opportunity. Like, how many years does he have left? So I'm more concerned about that and us having to like put a team together quickly in those few years. But I think the East is a bit more wide open. No disrespect to Brooklyn and Milwaukee, but those guys don't scare me at all. So if you can put a team together, you can be right there in no time. You know, so let's see. I mean, I'm not sure outside of Dame. It's a risk. I feel like it's a risk in terms of the small window to win with him. And I consider 4 years a small window for me. I consider a small window. Um, but who else moves the needle?
Mm. I
Jalen
mean,
Brown.
the Boston Celtics are not trading him to the Knicks.
I mean, they would
Yeah,
be dumb to do so, but I've heard that the
yeah.
chemistry between him and Marcus Smart and Tatum might not be there. Maybe it might be something they're looking to do. Maybe they feel like they can't advance in the Eastern Conference further than where they are right now, and they need to bring back someone. But I don't know
But
who
I
they're
don't
going to
think
say.
Jalen Brown is at the level of a Dame. I'm not sure how much he moves the needle. We might be the new Boston with him and Randall. I'm not saying he's not a good player,
No, I know,
but
but
I'm just saying him and Randall. I mean, I don't see that as
I think ultimately, Brown, whatever move the Celtics makes, I think they're waiting on the Bradley Beal situation. I think being that Tatum's their guy and Beal is Tatum's guy, you know what I mean? I think that's the situation they're gonna be waiting for. Especially if they're moving a Brown and whatever else. I think that's where they go with that particular move. Queen, you said something that had me, a little stumped. Oh, as far as making the decision, because I'm of the belief that Randall can continue to grow with the youth
yeah.
guys
I
that we
agree.
that we have. I think part of the expectation of what we did last year and just the achievement of making it to the playoffs and having home court advantage, is somewhat of a hinder for the Knicks
Yeah.
in as far as the expectation and now that takes away some of that growth where you could just watch them grow. You know what I mean? It takes away some of that because you want immediate, not you,
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
Knicks fans want immediate results.
I think it's more about taking the next step. And none of them who we thought would take a significant step hasn't. I mean, I think Obi's taken a step. I think
Mhm,
IQ has taken a step.
mhm,
But we was looking for a leap. At least I was from Mitch. I was looking for a leap from RJ. And I could be wrong, but I just think the gap between Randall and these young guys is bigger. Like I see them on two separate developmental paths. I see RJ can go either way, kind of with Randall or with, but IQ and Obi, how long is it going to take them to be somebody that you can really count on? By that time, Randall is going to be older. He's 27 now, So
mhm.
to me, I see the Knicks with two teams almost, kind of like,
that's actually yeah.
It,
yeah,
I
like you got to decide what are we doing? Are we going young?
it's tough though because even with the 4 year window with a guy like Dame, like you also gotta envision a quickly a RJ and a Obi in four
Nah.
years. No,
Oh,
you don't
oh, oh.
think you,
But
that's
no, I agree with you. But those trade offs are made all the time.
I
Those
mean.
trade offs are made all the time. When the Lakers traded Randall, when they traded Ingram, it's not like they
Mhm.
didn't think that these guys were going to be good. They weren't going to be good in the timeline that they needed them to be good, and I think that's what the fans miss.
But
They think that we trade RJ. What if he turns out to be an all-star? We could have had him, but we need him to be an all-star in this window. He's
Right.
becoming an all-star later. That trade-off is made all the time.
I agree. I'm making a specific analogy of the 4 year window with uh with Dame
Yeah,
to the comparison of where they could potentially be. I know it's potential. I know we don't know.
correct.
You know what I mean? But where they
Right.
will be in 4 years, because currently we're not giving them the 4 year window. We're asking for it right now. You know what I mean? Yet, like if the Dame window was smaller, if it's like a 2 year window, like then it
But
kind of
this is the
makes
difference,
more.
Tony. I'm talking about 4 years to win. You're going to be a championship
I,
contender in all four of those years. You understand what I'm saying?
I get
In
it.
4 years, IQ and Obi may just be reaching their potential. You understand what I'm saying? So it's
Hmm.
a difference. It's not like in 4 years they're going to be there. In 4 years, they're gonna probably just be reaching their potential. And those 4 years that Dame is here, I'm hoping if the Knicks put a team around him, you're a contender each of those years. That's what I'm hoping.
That's why
So
you gonna make a move like that. That's
so
it. Yeah.
so so what is your, and you too, Josh, your personal preference?
The Dame
Because
one is tough for me.
me personally, I like the 4 year window of the team we have with
Oh,
with,
nah,
with, with
nah,
tweaks. I'm not
nah.
saying for contention per
Mm-mm.
se, but what I'm saying is I don't have a problem. I like seeing the growth of Obi quickly. RJ has been somewhat of a, I don't even want to call him a disappointment this year because because it's more responsibility on him. You know what I mean? It's more pressure, it's more expectation on him, and I'm not gonna call him a like a bust or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
been
yeah.
a slight disappointment. You know what I mean? I expected a little bit more, but it's not like I'm bummed on him, or I'm like he's got to go. So me personally, I think the 4 year trajectory with some tweaks, I think we could be in contention by the end of it.
I don't think so
I think so. I don't see why we couldn't. Now,
because I
granted,
think that. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
it's gonna take growth, but if you're not, if you already, and again, I'm not saying you, if people are not
Yeah, yeah,
already,
yeah, yeah.
if not ready to watch and see the growth, then they're gonna be opposed to this regardless. You know what I
Then
mean?
get
Like
rid of Randall. In 4 years, Randall's gonna be 31 years old. That's what I'm trying to say, Tony. I'm okay. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's a legitimate way to build your team. That you're gonna go young. You're gonna take the next 3 and 4 years and see what you got in Obi, see what you got. If that's the case, stop wasting Randall's time because you're not winning. You're not winning on a team with those guys, in my opinion. So just let Randall go, get some draft picks, get another young player, and go that route. Don't waste Randall's prime waiting for Obi and IQ to get up to level.
I don't even know if Randall's in his prime yet. To be honest,
Yeah, I mean that's a good
like,
point, but he'll
and
be
that's
31
So
yeah.
so
At the end, at the end
at
of the
the
contract,
end.
yeah.
Mm.
I
At
mean,
the end of this, go
this
ahead, Josh.
contract, right?
yeah, at the end of the contract, but I think, and I agree with Steph. This can go two ways, but I try to look at it beyond what they're doing on the floor, right? You also have to send a message within your organization. You have to project a competence within your organization. Quite frankly, the Knicks just signed Julius Randle to a 4 year extension, 5 year extension, or whatever the case may be, right? I don't think it's a good look for the organization to go ahead and trade him less than 1 year into it, probably the off season or 1 year into it. I don't think that's smart for the organization to do. I think they signed Julius Randle long term, right? And we got him on a deal, on a deal because he could have easily got at least $10 more million in the offseason somewhere else, in my opinion. Um, I don't think the organization signed Julius Randle to that contract just to say we're going to trade you a year later. So I think they want to win within Julius Randle's time frame. I think if we go out and make a trade for someone that's a big name, a star or whatever, I don't think we will have to give up as much. I think because we have enough assets and draft picks, and like I said, if you include a third team in there, we wouldn't have to. So you can be able to get the best of both worlds. You can be able to bring in someone to play alongside Julius Randle while still keeping an IQ, an OB, or an RJ. One out of the three or
Josh.
whatever
Oh,
the case
one
may
out
be.
of the three.
No, not all
Okay.
three of them. Yeah,
Okay.
I know
I
we
was
got.
about to
Yeah,
say. Okay.
yeah, one of them. You know what I'm saying? And they can be a major contributor, right? And then I think that's how you start building your team to be a contender, right? You're going to have that one guy who you drafted to be a significant piece to what you are going to do, moving forward in the championship reigns. And like I said, as long as you can get to the playoffs and you can win a couple playoff series, if you make it to a conference finals, anything can happen. You know what I'm saying? A player can get hurt, injuries can
And
happen, and then,
Yeah.
so I'm more of the Knicks going that route, being a little bit more aggressive. Like I understand people are love these kids that we got and everything like that, but I want to win. I'm gonna win a championship.
I,
Me too.
I agree with you guys, but I also think, even with me being down on the team, I still think we're capable of going on a Miami Heat type run, or Atlanta Hawks type run from last year, or you know a Phoenix Suns. That's a little bit of a stretch, but a Phoenix Suns type run from last year. You know what I mean? Like, things have to fall your way anyway, no matter what. So it takes that too. and if things are clicking, I think we can get there. Um,
I
Josh,
think there's
you
a difference, Tony.
mhm. As
All
being
three,
perennial contenders,
all,
Atlanta and
all three of those
Miami,
teams had a point guard.
right? That too,
but
and
well,
and they just went on a good stretch. They weren't perennial
yeah,
Eastern
I agree.
Conference. You
No,
understand? Other than
yeah, no,
Phoenix was. So yeah, we can go on a
absolutely,
good run. Any team could do
absolutely
that.
right.
I want to
But
be there for the over and over. Yeah, that
yeah, you gotta crawl before you walk. You don't just become a perennial contender. Is part of what I'm saying too. Like you gotta earn your way up to that spot and go
not
through.
necessarily. You could trade your way in. The Lakers traded their way in. There's many ways to win a championship.
That is true, but to even when teams do that, there's a window in that. You know what I mean?
No doubt about it.
Like like that,
No doubt about it.
and that's never like guaranteed. You know, what I mean? Most of the time that they go that
Nothing
route,
is though.
they don't win
Nothing's guaranteed,
they
bro.
don't win that
Nothing's
first
guaranteed.
year.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it always takes at least a year,
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree
And
with
then
that.
even to do the back to back thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's rare. You know what I mean, in so
I'll just say
Even
this real
building
quick,
through the
Tom.
draft and winning the championship is rare. Not
no,
a lot of teams don't do that either. That's rare as well.
I'll just say it is about winning a championship. Obviously, we want to win a
Right.
championship, but
Right.
I think the best course of action is for the Knicks to put themselves in a position, and I've been saying this for 2 years now, put themselves in a position to compete for one. Because if you're there and you're in the dance, anything can happen. You can get
Right.
hot at the right time. A team can get an
Right.
injury. We've seen Golden State lose Clay and all these guys come playoff time, and that's how teams win. Right, so that's how I want them. I want them to be in that kind of position. You can't ever guarantee yourself a championship. Look with Brooklyn last year. You know what I'm saying? They got injuries at the wrong time.
Right.
you
Yeah.
also got to be smart and strategic about how you do it, because you don't want to put all your eggs in two baskets, I'll say, and then one breaks, and now you know what I mean, you're stuck in a position where you only got the one guy instead of you know what I mean, the two.
I just wonder how other teams are able to do it. Like I look at I think there's certain risks you have to take. I think
Mhm.
Miami paying Kyle Lowry 30 million, that was a risk.
I,
But they were willing to take that risk. They don't even hardly have a bench. But they just felt like with their culture, with these guys, they would be able to win. And I just want the Knicks. I'm not saying you got to throw caution to the wind, but take some risk.
all right,
Overpay a guy.
I, I, I agree.
We talking, Queen.
I agree. But even I think when we was in this position this past offseason, I think there was still a lot of skepticism on the Chris Paul thing, and I think he's the
Not
guy.
for me. I wanted him.
He's
I
the
wanted
guy
him.
that you know what I mean, that we need. Like, and you don't get any. You can't even really pinpoint who's the next closest point.
I would have went with
Chris
Lowry too.
Paul type point guard.
Right.
Yes,
He's not
yes.
a Chris
I mean,
Paul type. He's not. He's not. He's not a Chris Paul.
well,
Not
that's
many
what.
are.
But yeah, he has his own things. You know what I mean, that you could go with Larry as well in that position, but you got to overpay for him, like you
You got to
said.
overpay.
And how many times are we willing to do that? But I don't know.
Yeah.
One thing, Josh, you omitted. You saying that the three young guys, you forgot. You throw Mitch in there, and I think that has value too. So you know what I mean, that may be able to negate one of the other one of the other three guys. You know what I mean. So maybe it's Mitch and Quick that makes it feasible, and you hold on to Obi and RJ, or maybe it's, you know what I mean, RJ and Obi, whatever combination. But I think you got to throw Mitch in there. As high as I've been on Mitch and still am, he's still an asset at this point. And I think,
Or Noel.
yeah, no,
We just talking about
for
we just talking about the young guys, Queen. We just talking about the young guys.
Oh, just the young guys. Okay,
for the money aspect, it becomes a good chunk of the salary that you send it back. But
Gotcha.
you know what I mean, if they want youth with potential,
Gotcha.
you know what I mean, like, you got to throw mention that equation. Any other, is Dame the only guy?
Nope.
No, I think Dame is the guy that shakes everything up. He's the guy that moves the needle the most, and he's the guy that puts the heat on the Knicks that we got this amount of time and we need to make it happen. I think if you get a Miles Turner, that you got a little more, you got more than 4 years to make it happen. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And you're gonna need more because Miles Turner
Mm-hmm.
does move the needle, but he would be more like a chemistry guy. Like you
Mm-hmm.
put these guys together, they develop good chemistry and they become a good team. Whereas you put Dame on this team, to me, that's like combustion, like instant to me. Like, um, I mean, and it could not work. It could not work, but
I mean,
this guy's another level.
let's talk about it. Let's talk about Miles, and then I'll give you a person. I mean, you pick your person, Josh. So if you want to lead it off with Miles, what do you think
I mean,
Miles brings? You said
sure,
he
sure.
moves needle a little bit.
He doesn't need not as much as Dame, I don't think. I think he would need more if you bring him in. Number one, I think that he would play better under Tibbs. I think his defense would be much better under Tibbs, and I'm not saying he's a slouch now, but I think it would be even better. He is a really he's a better rim protector than what we got. Even though I love Noel's timing and whatever, he's a really good rim protector, and he stretches the defense. So now whoever's playing the center has to come out. The same thing that the centers do to us, and that opens up the lanes for our guys. I think Randall, Josh brought this up a lot. Now on those pick and rolls, Randall can actually roll to the basket and go downhill, right? Because Mitch's guy is not standing right there in the paint. I think he changes our offense and our defense to have a two-way center. If you got to overpay for that, I'm okay. If you got to give up an extra one for that, I'm okay. And I think that's the thing with us as Knicks fans is, oh, he not worth that. But they looking at him in a vacuum. You got to think about what he's gonna be for our team. Just like what's the guy, the point guard that Milwaukee brought in. When I saw the package for him, I was like, wow, that's giving up a lot. But if
Holiday.
he's the Holiday, if he's the missing piece for a championship, and he was, that's
Yeah.
nothing. So that's how I'm thinking about Miles. I really like what he would do for us offensively and defensively.
Um, yeah,
For,
Danny, I'm gonna get to you in a second. And I'm gonna have Josh send you the link. Give me a second though. Let me just
how
finish
do I
this.
have him on Twitter or something? I don't know how
Um,
I'll be able to send it to him.
oh, all right, I'll get to you in a second, Danny. I got you.
Yeah,
Um, Josh, you can respond to the queen, and then I want to ask her a question about this
yeah,
Miles
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Listen, I'm a fan of Miles. I think everything Queen said. He can be able to stretch the floor defensively. He's not limited. He can be able to defend a little bit. He can block shots, right? So this is someone who's going to give it to us on give us something on both ends of the floor. No question about it. I think it's a clear upgrade from Mitchell Robinson. I think for the fit of the team, I think Miles Turner is definitely worth it. I also want to throw in there Karl Anthony Towns as someone else that I think can be a good fit because his ability to stretch the floor defensively, he's not a liability, and you can go to him and get a bucket when you need one, right? So that's someone else I would definitely consider as well if Minnesota makes that trade.
You stole my thunder, but since you
Okay, yeah,
mentioned
go ahead, yeah.
since you mentioned it, I wanted to ask the queen hypothetically, of course, what do you think the cost for Miles is, and then how much more do you think it would take for Carl going for Carl Anthony rather than Miles, or in comparison,
Right.
um, and then
I would be willing. I would be willing to give up any of our young players and a number of draft picks. It
for,
doesn't, if they wanted Obi and a number one and a number two, if they wanted Quick and a number one and a number two, um,
this
the
is
only
Miles
problem
or this is Carl
Miles
or this
Turner.
is
I
either.
wouldn't have a
Oh,
problem giving up
okay.
Obi for Miles Turner. Obi's not going to get the minutes, behind Randall unless we're going to do that for the small ball. Um, Only thing I would say about RJ is that just creates another hole at the three position. If you give him up, it just creates another hole. But I'm okay giving up Obi. Um, IQ. I just think he just changes the trajectory of this
and one
team.
of, right? You're not saying both, or are you
Both
saying
what?
both?
Both.
RB and
Both of the young players.
I mean, yeah, OB and Quick, or just one of the
If
two?
they do Obi and Quick, they're gonna want to draft. Listen, I may not be the best person to ask
Listen,
because I
it's
like this guy. And I think that he changes things for us. So I may overpay for him. Put it
okay.
that way.
And
I'm
then
willing to overpay for Miles Turner.
in comparison, like you're higher on Miles than Carl Anthony Towns, or
Ooh,
do
I
you
think it's two different things. I
or are
think
you giving up more for Carl Anthony?
you're gonna have to give up more
And you,
Okay.
for Cat because I think they both help us. I think Miles is more chemistry guy. Like you got to put other pieces around, and the whole is better than the sum of its parts type of thing. Cat. you know, now the only thing I will say, and I've said this before, can you win where your best players are 4 and 5, and you
4 and 5.
don't have that dynamic 1, 2, or 3? You know what I mean? And now Tibbs have to be a bit more creative offensively to make sure they have their space. The good thing about it is both of them can play inside and out. So while one is in, the other one, could be out. So that shouldn't be too hard to do. But yeah, you're gonna have to give up more for Cat, and I'm okay with it. I think his defense will be better under Tibbs, and I think he's grown up since the last time he played for Tibbs.
Mm.
Can I just add something as well? I know we're talking
Yeah.
about making these trades, and
Mhm.
Tone keeps mentioning 1 out of 4 between Mitch, RJ, quickly, and Obi, right? But don't forget, we still have McBride, we still have Grimes, like all of these
Yeah,
kids
that's
Mhm.
true.
that are not haven't even scratched the surface of where we think they could be their potential yet. Same thing we're saying about these guys, Grimes and McBride. We were saying about Obi last season, right? We don't know if he's going to get that much time, that much minutes.
Right, right.
What is he going to be, right? So the Knicks, it may seem like a lot to give up on, 3 out of 4 of these players or whatever, but the Knicks have picks. They have draft picks where they can go out and draft more and continue to bring in young players and continue to
Right.
develop. It just doesn't have to be these particular 4 that we're talking about.
That's true. That's a good point.
All
That's a
right,
good point.
Josh, who's your draft? Oh, your trade candidate,
Oh, I'm a big. The way Steph talks about Miles Turner
Miles.
is how I feel about. No, it's not Miles. I said the
Oh,
way
okay.
she talks about Miles Turner. Miles is Jaylen Brown. I just think this dude is different. He is a different two-way wing player who can go out and get a bucket, who can go out and defend. He can knock down clutch shots, knock down free throws. To me, I think he would be a phenomenal addition for this team. I've always liked this game. And I think I'm not saying he's better than Jason Tatum, but I personally like his game better than Jason Tatum.
Right.
I've always
Josh,
liked his game. Something about,
I, I'm on record as saying I think Brown is gonna be ultimately better than Tatum. Like, and I said that like 2 3 years ago, and I still believe it. So I'm with you. Um,
and
and
I think that. Go ahead,
I'd
Tom.
make it. I make the move. I make the move. I'd include RJ. Obviously, I try to make it centered around RJ. So hopefully, with not necessarily giving up that many more assets in combination. Um,
You're gonna have to give up Tony to get this guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
RJ ain't gonna do it.
I'm trying to sell them on the fit more than you know what I mean more like if that's what their beef is with, because I don't see it. I don't see why they don't ride it out. Granted,
Right. That's a
they
good point.
like to me personally, I'd ride it out. I'm not, especially me thinking he's the better player out
Mhm,
of the two
mhm.
long term. So if y'all saying it's a fit thing, I'm trying to sell them on RJ's fit with Jason
No,
Tatum
I'm not saying it's a
more
fit
than
thing. I don't know what the issue is. Like a lot of these teams make these trades, and like you look and you be like, why would the team do that? Right? But it can be for multiple reasons. It could be about money. And I'm not saying this is what Boston's issue is. I'm just saying there's
Right.
multiple reasons why a team would want to get rid of a player. You think, why is it not working? Why is it not working? There's so many things that go on, and I think if Boston will be willing, the reports coming out of Boston is that maybe there is a little bit of a rift, or it's just not working out between Brown and Tatum. Tone, you've been on record by saying Boston's been at the same level every single year. They haven't improved, right? So maybe it is time for them to probably split some things up and go ahead and move one of those guys. I think they'll be more willing to keep Tatum than keep Brown. It's not unfortunate because Brown is a heck of a player, and if he's available, I want the Knicks to go get that guy. No question about that. I want the Knicks, and I will give up RJ. I would give up RJ Barrett. I would give up. Let's see, they're missing a center, so they're probably gonna want Mitch. Actually, got Robert Williams, but I think they'll take Mitch. And I'll give up some draft capital. I'll give up some definite draft capital.
You would overpay for him.
Oh yeah. No question.
The way I would overpay for,
no question.
I mean, I think that's a fair trade. RJ, Mitch, and I mean, I don't know if I want to do 2 picks, but a pick.
You're gonna have to do 2. Listen,
2 picks for him. Oh yeah, I'm doing that.
RJ is RJ, especially this season, we see potential in RJ. He may or may not meet that. Mitch is already underperforming. They not, to them, those are scraps. For a guy who's been, though injured this year, playing, he's hasn't he made an all-star team?
Last year was first year.
Yeah, like he's playing, he's playing at an all-star level. If RJ's trajectory had continued up this season, maybe you can make that argument, but it hasn't. I think they may see more potential in Obi than in RJ.
RJ, wow.
They might. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, again, it's back to my other argument of, because I think Obi and Quickly have more superstar potential than RJ does. I think RJ just has a nice high floor. You know what I mean? Like he's not gonna drop below a certain level. He's not gonna be a bust. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna be a 12-year vet, maybe 2-year all-star
role player. Just say role player.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? More than not somebody who just made it through the league. You know what I mean? Like he has a definitive role throughout.
Right, but they may want somebody with a higher ceiling. They may want one of each. Somebody with a high floor and somebody with a high ceiling.
Not to mention Jaylen Brown's 25 years old, so that makes the window a little bit better with Julius Randle. I love that move. I'm all for that.
So you do RJ Quickly and a pick, or
I'll do RJ, Mitch, and a couple picks.
Whoever they want.
If Quickly jumps in it, do you take a pick back or
whoever they want?
Okay.
Yeah. I think Jaylen Brown is the real deal. He's star. He's a star, in my opinion.
Right. Well,
I mean, I like I like guys that trajectory up throughout their career. So I'm high on Brown as well.
Yeah. And I like guys who've proven it over guys who might be something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oof. All right, man. I got the hottest take of the night, I think.
Oh.
I don't think you do, but I'll give you a shot.
I mean, I've been thinking about this since last week. So right after we did the show last week, I was trying to set something up for Wednesday, 2 days later, just to get this off my chest, and I couldn't make it happen. But Ben Simmons.
Oh God!
I think Ben Simmons correct. I heard you, Queen.
This is how much the Knicks have sunk. But anyway, go ahead.
You wasn't muted. I heard you. I mean, does he have issues? Obviously, yes. Like that's what I mean. I can't question that. But let me give you my selling points on him. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All his limitations, we still agree that he's great at things, right? There's things that he's like top 5
elite
in the NBA, right? So we got his defense, you know what I mean, his passing ability. He's pretty good at everything except actually shooting the ball. I think I would argue his rebounding is good, everything. Um, so that's one aspect. Right now his value's at its all-time low. It has to be right.
No,
No,
Philly still wants a lot.
okay.
They haven't
I
dropped
know
their
I know I know what they want, but outside of, I mean, granted, they're the decision maker, but outside of them, his value is probably at its, or even with whatever they feel, his value has to still be at its lowest it's ever been. Like regardless of what they're saying, they want in return, or what I mean, they're not gonna settle for. His value has to be the lowest it's ever been in his career. Um, so I think ultimately, I think they're gonna have to take less than what they want. They're not in the driver's seat 100%.
They
But
are. Did you hear him? Did you hear Daryl Morey? He said this could be a 4-year
for a year
process.
thing, I heard him.
I think he's
But
bluffing.
but
I think he's bluffing at the end of the day.
here's the thing. I don't think he makes it 4 years before. You know what I mean? Before that, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
that. That's the way I'm looking at it. Like
Mhm.
And he ain't the one that got to pay the money though. He still got to answer the ownership. Ownership
that's
may
what that's
not want
what
to pay him,
that's what I'm
for 4 years
saying.
to sit on the
That's
bench
what I'm
and
Right.
saying.
whatever.
He'll
Right.
be
Right.
gone before. You know what I mean? Just so they can do what they, what I mean, they feel they need to do, save face, or get some value back. Um, but as far as his fit, I think he fits. The reason I think he fits is based off of who we were last year, right? And who we had at the round. Now, granted, Peyton would shoot the ball, yes, but it was just as good as him not shooting the ball for the most part. So I think bringing in a guy who did everything that Peyton does good, he does great,
But
right?
we're a different team, Tony. Like I would prefer if you just compared him to how he would fit with this team, because you're asking that to plug him into Peyton's role last year, but we're not that team anymore.
I'm saying that's exactly what he's gonna provide. I'm not saying say come in and be Peyton. I'm saying be yourself. But that's what he's gonna provide, the same things that kept Peyton in the starting lineup all year long. But
What position
at
he's
at,
playing for
ten,
you?
at point the
Okay.
one.
Okay.
So that's what me and you disagree, Tone. Because I ain't putting Ben Simmons at the point guard. I'm putting him at the 3 at the wing. Either the
I
3
mean,
or the.
he can guard any position.
No,
No, I'm saying I'm
offensively.
not, offensively though. I'm putting him at that position. I like him there. And I get that the NBA has changed. You know, you got to be able to shoot the basketball. I totally get that. But you don't have to convince me about Ben Simmons. I've been saying this, for a long time. I want Ben Simmons in here. I wouldn't put him at point guard. I would put him at the 3. I would have him go out there. He can go out and get rebounds for you, which this team is definitely lacking. He can
Mm-hmm.
go out and stop the opposing team's best player, which I
Mm-hmm.
don't think the Knicks have that guy on this roster yet. I'm sorry, RJ Barrett is just not that guy. I get he's still learning, but he's not that guy yet, right? So I'm plugging him there for that. Playmaking ability, which this team desperately needs, the ability to get on transition, where I think we're bottom in the league, and transition offense, he can help us there with that. Just another
At
ball
the
handler on
three,
the floor.
Josh.
At the
So you would
3,
have at the 3.
The,
See,
the,
this is the
the,
thing. In order to get the playmaking, I think
you
he's
have to
gonna
have,
have to
yes,
he's gonna have to be
uh,
either the point or in Randall's role, the point forward. So you
running the
have a
running
point
the
guard,
offense
but
through
in
him.
name
Yep.
only because he's
Yes.
facilitating the
Yeah,
offense.
I agree.
so not
I
necessarily
agree.
because
Other way. Other
Philly
way.
didn't use him that way. Philly, he wasn't the point guard in Philly. The point guard that
He
they had
was
was
that
Seth Curry.
no,
Seth Curry.
Josh.
He he
Watch the
he.
games. Seth Curry was the shooting
Yes.
guard.
It's
They may have had him on the what do you call it?
at the position, but that's not what
They
he.
must have had him at
That
the
wasn't his
position. But if you
role.
watch the games, his role was to bring the ball up the court and initiate the offense. Just like Randall, they have Randall listed at power forward,
and
but he's
and
handling the ball and
and
facilitating the
and
offense.
that's
So
why I was gonna say he could be the 3. We're quickly at the 1.
so
You know
I
what I
But
think
mean?
we're
he's
saying
gonna be
And,
handling
but
the ball.
but he's
so
gonna
okay.
be
So I think that's I think we're saying the same thing just in
Right,
technicality, basically.
right, right,
So yeah,
right,
I would have
right.
Ben Simmons playing the 3, and then you put a point guard. A shooter at that other spot. I
hmm
think you would have to do that in order to make the
At
lineup
the
work.
other
And I
two
think
spots.
at the other two spots, right? So you got a Quickly, and then you got to find a shooter. Or if RJ Barrett still finds a way to stick around, maybe he just can become like a shooter. I mean, he was a shooter last season. You know, maybe that's his role. But I feel like we can go out and go get a shooter. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we can go find that. Or maybe Grimes takes that role if RJ's not here. You know what I mean? There's multiple ways you can do
Philly
that.
did. All right, go ahead. I'm gonna let y'all finish. Y'all finish, and then
No, I'm saying that's what Philly did. But we talk. People can criticize Philly all they want. Philly was a contender. Philly was contending every season, and I get it that they still can't get over the hump. But a couple game sevens, and you know they lost in a couple game sevens that took them to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think Philly was a team to be reckoned with, and I think with Ben Simmons, they still know that they can be that same team. So we can say what we want about Philly it not working, but it worked with Ben Simmons.
This is what I will say. It worked in the regular season, but the playoffs are a different animal. And if Philly is going to get over the hump with Ben Simmons, he has to be more of an offensive threat because things slow down in the playoffs. 4-on-3. You know, to me, I don't even care if Ben Simmons shot 25% from the three-point line. I don't even have a problem with his shooting percentage. It's his unwillingness to take the shot and keep the defense honest. That's all I'm asking for. You don't even have to be a great shooter. Peyton wasn't a great shooter, but he took the shots he needed to take to keep the to keep the defense honest. That's all I'm saying.
Steph,
Ben Simmons
you're 100% right. You're 100% right.
Take the shots. Just if you don't hit them.
I respond to that by saying Ben Simmons is only 25 years old. That's all I'm saying.
Listen,
if I was a betting man, I would bet that changes.
This is what I will say. It might change now because of all the smoke.
Yes.
It hasn't changed. In college, he was a poor free throw shooter. You know, he's still a poor free throw shooter. In terms of taking shots, his game has not evolved since. Now, he got a lot of smoke this season. So I do think if whatever team he's on next, I think he kind of gets it. Like, this is not going to work. To me, I don't know him personally. He's been pretty defiant offensively. Like, this is my game. I don't need to change anything. He's been pretty defiant. So if Ben Simmons, you're right. He's an elite playmaker. He's an elite defender. He's an elite rebounder. If he was willing to shoot, I wouldn't have much of a problem with Ben Simmons.
I take the gamble
that he is now willing to shoot. Okay,
that's what I'm saying. And
I get that
at his lowest value point. You know what I mean? Where even if we're not saying the lowest value point, we have the assets. I mean, I don't know. From what Maury's talking about, only 2 teams have the assets. You know what I mean?
Because they're looking for an all-star. They're looking for an all-star back. Like, Philly's not looking for a developmental player. They're looking for somebody that they can pair with Embiid. Who do we have that they can pair with?
That's where that third team comes in.
That third team would have to come in. Gotcha.
And this is what I was gonna say with Josh. The same thing. Like, this is where if we don't have the assets, but we're willing to take this guy on. You know what I mean? Now we can start trying to negotiate something and finding the third team.
Maybe Portland blows it up. Portland gives up McCollum or Lillard in one of those trades or whatever to Philly, you know, and then kind of rotate it that way, you know. And we give picks.
If that's the case, as crazy as it sounds, I would be willing to be that third team, getting the Ben Simmons and not getting the Dame Lillard in that scenario, especially if ultimately we're giving up less than what it would have taken to get Dame directly.
Is the thing. Ben Simmons, we don't know if Ben Simmons could be a number 1. He's elite, don't get me wrong, but we don't know that. We know Dame could be that, and Randall is not it yet. I'm not saying he won't ever be that, but he's not it yet. Ben Simmons, as elite as he is a piece. You know, I still think you would need to bring in other pieces. Even with Dame, you got to bring in other pieces, but they don't have to be as high level, in my opinion. I mean, listen, but the other issue I have with him is just not being able to take the heat in Philly from the fans, and he got a lot of it. So if he comes to New York,
he be much different. You're right.
and he
So
performs well, I'm just saying, if he performs well, the crowd will be behind him and they will support him. But how would he respond if the crowd ever turned on him? That is just a concern.
I
I
agree.
think there's a huge misconception that it's the Philly fans that is making Ben Simmons not want to play in Philly. All right, I think that's and I think Philly fans have the right to feel that way. As a fan base, if that happened to us, as a fan, I would be like, "Yo, what is he doing? We just paid him. Like,
Right, right.
what is he complaining about?" But I think it goes beyond the Philadelphia fans. I think people, particularly Knicks fans,
Yeah.
are trying to make that the reason why. I think it's something way deeper than that.
I
We
think
really
it's
don't know.
multiple things. I don't think
I
it's just not the fans, but I do agree it's multiple things.
it's multiple things that go into it. I don't know why Ben Simmons would feel that way. I feel like the organization did do their due diligence to put some pieces around him to get Philly to the next level. So I don't know that part, and that's the part that I would question the most. But I don't think it has anything to do with Philly or the fans or the crowd being too tough on him. I don't think that's what that issue is there.
So let me ask you this: do you think it's more Doc Rivers or Embiid?
I think he
Could
felt
be both of them.
betrayed.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. I'm
Yeah.
I
guessing
mean,
that he felt betrayed by their
I mean,
comments, and
I,
he's coming across to me as a pretty sensitive guy. And they were.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he didn't have a right to feel that way,
mm-hmm,
but I'm sure people in the heat of the moment say
mm-hmm,
things that they should not have
mm-hmm.
said, and I don't think that either one of them should have said what they said. But I think he just took it too far. Like it just cut him so deep he couldn't
Yeah.
return from it. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Are you speaking from a fan perspective, just in general perspective, or is any of this coming from the locker room perspective of being a coach, or even in your playing days of being a teammate? Has there ever been something that you couldn't
Ooh,
let go or come
that's a good
back
I'm,
from?
I'm,
question.
I'm talking
You
from a
know what I mean?
mental health professional perspective.
Okay, or
That it just, I
even
just feel like it just
even
cut him so deep that it
even
was just too much at a time when he probably was feeling down
The
and
lowest. Yeah.
bad
mhm.
and the lowest. Your coach gonna take a shot at you.
And then yeah,
Your other player, one of the best play on the team takes a shot at you. I just think it might have cut him too deep. But I'm reading into it. I
so,
have
I mean,
no idea.
but let's stay there though, because I think that is a great point. It's not like you're speaking from knowledge of your profession.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's personal. You know what I mean? Knowledge type. How do you come back from that if that's what it is, or how does that affect you knowing that, but using like your fan brain as far as
Yeah.
bringing him here?
Well, my as a mental health professional, my concern is that he wasn't able to bounce back from it with the organization, and they gave plenty opportunities for him. I'm sure they apologized. I'm sure, they said that they need him on the team, and they do. That they, apologized on some point, and that wasn't enough. So it's like, wow. Like, I just think that that's irreparable for him. Um, I just think it's just something, if the Knicks were to bring him here just to be aware of. I don't think you got to walk on eggshells. I don't think it's like that.
Okay,
But
that's
yeah, I don't think it's like that when you got to walk on eggshells and make sure you do everything right. But you there's certain things you just can't do because you already know he can't handle that. Like
yeah.
that's too much for him.
And it doesn't help that he hasn't been able to say anything either. Like, he's just been quiet throughout this whole thing. We haven't heard him talk.
Right. And he's
So
holding on to it for a long
yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
I mean, I do have concerns, but I think that has to be a negotiating uh bargaining chip when you talking about the trade, right? You can't.
Yeah, I think Don Maury and them, I get them. They don't want to be fleeced. They don't want to be taken advantage of in this situation. But you're gonna have to bring your demands down a bit. You can't try to get what you would get if he is in his prime athletically and basketball wise, but you can't try to get what you would get if none of this had gone on. Right? You're gonna have to bring it down a little bit.
And yeah, that's crazy. Any any other candidates you guys want to discuss? As far as like,
Yes, I don't know if he's available. And he's more like a Miles Turner type of guy that I think moves the needle some, but you're gonna still need to make another move or two, and that's DeJounte Murray, the point guard out of San Antonio. I like his height. I like his defensive prowess. I like his playmaking skills. He's a good rebounder for a guard. He's a potential triple double guy, and his shooting has gotten better this year, including his 3-point shooting. And I think Tibbs would love him.
mm, great thing about a guy like that is that there is a cap on the asking price for him. You know what I mean? Like we can probably get him. He's probably like the cheapest guy that we spoke about so far. So I think that makes it very doable. Even overpaying, you know what I mean, in the
Right.
sense that we're willing to do for certain guys. I think even overpaying won't be something that is gutting the team, or the fan base is gonna have an issue with.
Right.
Um, but that being said, what do you think it takes to get him?
You
And
know
then
what?
how far that are you?
I
You
think
know
a
what
lot of
I
it
mean?
depends on if Pop is going to be there. Is Pop retiring? I think if Pop is going to be there, he would like a Fournier type player. He would like or I'm not saying you would put RJ in his trade, but I think he likes players like that, high IQ players that can play within a system, right?
Mhm.
And RJ, Fournier, I think IQ would give him a heart attack. I don't even think he would make it through the season with IQ jacking up shots like that. Like I think he would look at IQ and be like, "Nah, you can't play here." Um, I'm not sure if Obi is his type of guy either. Even though I think Obi's IQ is good, I
Yeah, I
don't know if
think
they play that type of game. But if he's transitioning off and somebody else is taking over, then it's the same thing.
mm,
I think all of the guys would be attractive to whoever's coming in. Pop just looks for specific things, I think.
Loves the
Josh.
European players, that's for sure. Oh yeah, I just want to say about DeJounte Murray. There's no one else immediately outside of who we're talking about right now that I'm thinking about off the top of my head. Someone said Cam Reddish. I think that would be a good pickup, but for me, I don't know. I gotta see a little bit more specifically about DeJounte Murray though. I think if we give up Fournier in that trade, we get back some more. We get some assets back because DeJounte Murray is only making 15, $16 million a year, right? So there may be a way for the Knicks to put a trade together where they can get back some assets, including Murray. It all just depends on what's going to happen with Pop. I totally agree with that from Queen. And if he
Right.
decides to retire this season and what direction the organization decides to go into, but I would like the Dejounte Murray move a lot. I think that'll be a good pickup for us.
Mm. Yeah, I like him as well. I think I don't know how much longer Tibbs is gonna be coaching.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know
another
if
thing.
they I don't know if they make
Yeah.
roster and personnel and decisions like that until he's actually, you know what I mean, out the
I just
equation.
think you can't do that. I just think that it's too early for a reset. And no matter what coach you bring in over a 4-year period of time, there's going to be ups and downs. You think when Terry Stotts was the coach, the fan base wasn't complaining about him? You think when D'Antoni was the coach, no, the fans wasn't complaining about him? Every coach has negatives. There's no perfect coach. I think the Knicks, I think it's too soon to reset and bring in another coach and now start this. And now if that coach has issues, then what? We're gonna start over again. I think you gotta stay the course.
You referring to like to the Spurs?
Tibbs,
Oh, yeah,
us,
yeah.
us. You gotta stay the
Oh.
course. It's too
No, no,
early
no,
to
no,
be
no. I
turning
was Did
over
I
and
say
getting a
Tibbs?
new
I
coach.
meant
You meant Pop. Oh, I
I
thought you
meant
meant
Pop. I'm
Tibbs.
so
Okay,
sorry.
I was
I'm
like,
like no, if I
or
said
maybe you
Tibbs, I'm
said
sorry.
Pop and I
I
didn't.
meant Pop. I think Pop is on his way out out
Right, right.
out the league, and I think, but I don't think they make any personnel or roster decisions until he's out the door. You know
Got
what I
you.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
as a respect to him. Oh my god, I didn't mean to say Tibbs. I think Tibbs is here for the
Maybe I
long haul.
misunderstood. Maybe I misunderstood.
He's here for the long haul. He's not going anywhere. Um, I did have another dark horse. Um, How about just yeah or nay? I'll throw some names out. You guys tell me yes or no. You think it
Okay.
we could do it? And um Christian Wood.
Yeah,
I don't see the fit along. Well, he can stretch it out a little bit.
he could play the
Depends on how.
five.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Why not? Why
Um
not?
Robert Covington.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Small move.
Um
That's a small move though, but yes, I like him.
Yeah.
Jeremy Grant. That's his
I
name.
like Jeremy as well. Yep.
You can put him at the 3, right? We can do that.
3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah.
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 uh
Brunson.
Brunson, absolutely. I like Brunson.
I need to see
Yeah,
him
he can
start some
play.
games. I need to see him start some games. I'm not saying he doesn't have potential or whatever, but I mean, he only got like a handful of starts in his whole career. I need to see him a little bit more.
What
No,
do
he
you guys
started more
think?
than that. You can look it up how many games he started.
What do you guys think of starting Rose, moving
Yeah.
quickly to the run the point on the second unit,
Yep.
and trading for Gordon?
Which Gordon? Hayward?
No,
Eric from
Houston.
Houston?
Eric Gordon.
He just seems so pudgy though. Like, like, just like I don't. He don't even look like he fit the. You know. Um. And he's what 6'4".
Yeah,
So he would play the 2 and move RJ back to the 3. I mean, yeah, I'm okay with Gordon.
I mean, I honestly, I'm of the belief that he could play the point, but I wasn't gonna bring that up. I mean, like he could start at the point, but I wasn't gonna bring that up. I don't think it's smart to start him at the point over Rose, and particularly. The funny thing is they do have a backcourt connection as well from high school and AAU and
Wow,
that nature.
wow,
Um,
that's telling us that it's a kind of old.
yeah, yeah.
Hold on.
Somebody says
Tone,
6'3". Yeah,
I have a take. I have a take that
yeah,
I need to vent
yeah.
a little bit.
Introduce it. Introduce it.
Because I was telling you I was gonna talk about this, and I was gonna wait probably to the Queen's Court. But I think right now is a good time because Steph made that point about lineup changes and all this stuff. I totally believe the front office dropped the ball in the offseason. I believe that they dropped the ball. We had $60 million in cap space, and we failed to improve the team. I know we're saying that right now in hindsight. At the time, a lot of us thought that the team upgraded substantially. At first, I didn't, but I got a little bit encouraged when the team was playing in the preseason and they were moving the ball a little bit. But it just hasn't worked out. We had $60 million in cap space once again. We in a deep free agent point guard market, we didn't miss the point guard position. So I think the front office has to be held accountable for that. I don't think it's necessarily catastrophic because the Knicks still have draft picks and all of that. They still have picks and flexibility, but we quite frankly simply failed to upgrade this team. And I just want to know what you guys feel about that.
Can you say the question over again?
It wasn't a question. I just gave my take on the front office. I said they
the front office. Okay.
failed
Josh is looking at my notes.
You think
What
they
is
dropped the
going
ball too?
on? He looking at my Queen's Court.
If we're gonna talk about this more on Queen's Court,
no, it's fine. No, we can talk about it both. We can talk about it at both places. Josh, I agree with you. It remains to be. I think we'll know the answer. I don't know, another year. Do they know something we don't know? And that's why they structured the contracts the way they structured it? Or did they do it that way just to be flexible because they don't really know something, but just to take advantage of something that might come down the pipe? We brought them in to be aggressive, I think. I think we changed management to change the team. They brought in Tibbs. That's letting you know you're trying to win now. You don't bring in Tibbs if you're not trying to win right now. And
I don't know if that's true though, Steph.
I'm not extremely happy. I'm just not. I'm just not happy so far. So far. But I like the way they structured the contracts to give them that flexibility. I like that part. Um Kimba, they had Kimba was a front office signing. That wasn't a tip signing. And I feel like if you're gonna hire a coach, give the coach what they need to be successful. You know the type of coach Tibbs is. He wanted Bullock. From what I'm hearing, he didn't get that. Y'all bringing in Kimba. You cannot tell me that that was a Tibbs move. Fournier, maybe Tibbs felt like he can work with Fournier, but you can't tell me that Kimba was a Tibbs move. So I feel like give Tibbs the type of team that he needs to be successful. And
I
I
don't
thought,
know.
the one more thing. We chose consistency and bringing back Burke and bringing back Noel because we wanted to build. And look what happened. You know, I'm always for giving up a little bit of chemistry for better talent. It'll work itself out over time, even though the talent may be, chemistry may be disrupted for a little bit. $10 million for Noel. I'm not saying that's a lot of money, but we could have got McGee on a minimum for that Noel money. You know what I mean? The same thing with Burke. I actually like Burke though, but if you're gonna upgrade, you gotta spend the money. You gotta spend the money and the assets. You know, but it remains to be seen. Maybe they didn't see who they really wanted. That they felt like were guys that moved the needle. Maybe that's what they were thinking. So let's stay flexible for the next round. We'll see.
I think that's what they did. Honestly,
That's what they
I
did.
think they. I think because they maintain such flexibility, even though they spent the money they had available, I think
Mhm.
they remain flexible long term. Like nothing we
Right.
did puts us in a position where we're stuck. You know what I mean? Like
But why did
where
they
we,
do that? You don't
Right.
think it's
And
I
because they
I,
couldn't find something? Like, why did they do
and
I
that?
that
don't.
and that's what I want to say to, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Tone, but this is very, very important. Like, and this goes along with the whole reason why I don't understand why Kimba got benched at this point, this particular point in the season. Right. I understand why
Right.
it happened, but right now, right?
Right.
First and foremost, if the Knicks had a plan all along, because I was the one saying that Oklahoma City bailed this out, right? As far as that Kimba contract, right? If the Knicks had a plan all along, they knew they was going to get Kimba Walker from the get go. That tells me they didn't even look at the other point guards that were available. That's what that tells me. And then at the same time, if you are building for the long haul, why would you make a lineup change right now? Why don't you just stick with it? It's not like the team was absolutely terrible. They weren't terrible.
I think
Offensive numbers, they weren't great, but they weren't terrible. And defensive numbers, they were improving. So why make the change right now at that point?
when you say that, oh, you say all right. I hear you talking about benching
And,
Kemba.
and then and
I
then it was they made it about him not being able to play defense. You knew you were getting that when you signed him.
Tibbs didn't want him. If
That's
you ask me,
that would have to
if
be the
you ask
only
me,
reason. That would have to be the only reason. But it's not working. That's off. Front office and the coach not being able to communicate. Something's
no, I
off with
think
it.
they communicated, but I think, I
yeah.
mean,
So
obviously none of
it's
us was
all a
there. I
compromise.
think they communicated, and the front office probably overrode Tibbs.
I mean, I wouldn't even. I think that's even harsh. I think it's a compromise all together. You know what I mean? Like, I think part of the reason, prior to the Kimber move, I think the signings that we did, the re-signings, I think that had more to do with chemistry than anything else. You know what I mean? And rewarding guys who fought for, you know what I mean, and did what they did the previous year. I think that's what that was about more than anything. Um, the
Why are
bullet.
you rewarding them though? Like we trying to win. Like I mean, I
I mean,
mean, all right,
I
all right.
mean, what? That's the only way you can reward someone is during, you know what I mean, during negotiations for like if they were under contract, there's no reward. Like you paid to do a job, you do a job, blah blah blah. But when you're in a contract situation, which all these, you know what I mean, all these guys were, I mean,
But they didn't have to
they
be in
could have went
contract
another route.
situation,
They could have went
right?
another route, no doubt. But I don't. I think what they were looking at was whether it's we exceeded expectations last year. Let's see if we could do this again with some stability, with some
Right.
continuity, and things of that nature. I
Right.
think it was more
Right.
of
Right.
that
And it
than
just didn't work out.
and so far, you know what I mean,
Right.
it hasn't panned out. I
Mhm.
think the same can be said with the Kimber Walker signing because
Right.
we didn't trade for him,
Right.
so technically it's like a easy sell. Okay, let's get this guy for 9 million a year. Where you know what I mean, like his stature. Granted, he hasn't panned out so far, but his stature, his history of who he is, was worth more than what we would get him at a bargain, at a discount. But you know what I
But
mean?
that's the
At a
that's
fight.
the biggest problem I have with that though. You knew you needed to address the point guard position. You had the most money out of any team in free agency, and you
Yep.
didn't address the point guard position because you wanted to take a guy on the bargain. And I just have
Right.
a
Yeah,
problem with that mentality
Right.
of thinking though it wasn't
Right.
a priority to get a point guard. That's the issue
Correct.
that I have.
Eh,
maybe the belief was we have the point guard already.
Who?
Maybe that's. I
Who?
mean, I'm sure D Rose was an option as starting, like potentially once we brought him back. And if you notice, that's all they had quickly working on all off season.
So if D Rose was always an option to start, how come they could start him instead of starting Burks?
Listen, I'm talking then. I'm not saying when the opportunity
I
arrives.
think Tibbs
Because
let them
you can.
know that Rose was always going to be a backup. Tibbs does not see Rose in the starting lineup, and he said it. He likes him coming off the he likes him coming off the bench. So I'm pretty sure he said that to start.
Regardless, something is just not adding up. Something is wrong. Something's wrong somewhere, whether it be front office or Tibbs. And that's why I made that little rant because I felt like somebody need to be held accountable for that because
Right.
it just don't
But
make
let me
happen.
ask you a question. Do you think the direction was wrong or the direction was right and it just didn't work out? Because that happens all the time. Think about Boston with Kyrie. It just didn't work out. Kemba, it just didn't work out. Do you think it's that it was good moves, it just didn't work out? Or do you think it
All right.
was the
This
direction itself
this is
just
what
wasn't the right
I think.
direction?
I think it was the safest direction. I think it was, excuse me,
Safe.
the safest move that they could possibly make without
Gotcha.
the it had the least risk of failure. You know what I mean? Because they're basing a lot of this off of what they already seen, what
Right.
these guys already did. You know what I mean? Like the more you change, the more risk. Now there's more chemistry risk. There's more um there's more risk of people fitting and finding their roles. I still believe it's early. I still think there's a chance that, and I haven't researched this, but based off of last year, Tips teams start off slow. You know what I mean? Like they turn it around later. Um, the inconsistency is visible early from last year and from this year. It was almost like two teams. Um, I think the difference between last year and this year is just that quick 5-1 start. You know what I mean? Like,
I think last
I
year
mean,
we looked better defensively. We offensively was the issue, but that defensive chemistry was there.
but
You
that's
know,
not. You think that's not non-existent this year? Because I don't think it's
yeah.
non-existent. I
I
think we've
just
shown it at times. I think, especially when we play with the guys who played last year.
I think we have shown it, which is why I wouldn't have taken Kimba completely out the rotation. I wouldn't have made the lineup change because I don't think the Knicks were playing that terrible, in my opinion. I know the plus minus stat is out there; people are going to go to that and refer to that. But to me, the Knicks were They had a winning record. They were winning some games. They won some tough games against Philly. They beat Boston. They beat Chicago once, right? So I wouldn't have made the lineup change. And I always said that if you're going to do a lineup change, I would rather go with one of the younger guys because now you're hearing reports that Tibbs might be losing the locker room a little bit, which I've mentioned that if you make a
I don't
move
think
like that,
so. I think that was just one guy who called in the KFTV. I don't remember hearing that anywhere else. I think
You know why he's not losing
Well,
the locker room?
Sim
Let me.
asked the question. Sim asked the
Mm.
question on one of the previous
Yeah,
shows,
he
and
did. Sim
I
did
think it is,
ask.
and I think one of the reporters were kind of hinted at it today, or in the media session today. You know what I'm saying? Like I think again, you mess with those veterans, you lose your locker room a little bit. And Tibbs can be coaching them as hard as we can. We don't know exactly what's going on in there, but right now there just seems to be a lot of a little bit of discombobulation within the team. It's not as
No doubt.
concrete
No
as it was
doubt.
last season.
No doubt.
You know what I
No
mean?
doubt
I think
about it.
that reflection on the coach.
I don't think there's any credence of him losing the locker room. I think I think number one with a guy like Rose there and with a guy like Tibbs there, I mean Taj there, he's not gonna lose the locker room because he's gonna have to lose those two guys before he could lose the entire locker room. Like
Okay.
the rest of the guys have other players, teammates that they could go to and really vent and ask about, and all these guys minus Kimba and Fournier are already familiar with Tibbs. They know who he is. They know what he's about. You know what I mean? They know his situational you know what I mean? How it works. You know what I mean?
Right.
They know. So if
Right.
anything, like if he's gonna lose somebody, it's Kimba, who is
Or
the
Fournier.
or Fournier, yeah.
The new
But
guys, yeah.
but Kemba, because of the situation he's in. But even with that, if there's any guy that's gonna be able to be a pro still, it's Kemba. You know what I mean?
Did you see his
Like
press conference today?
yes, beautiful. I wish.
Wow.
Yeah, but again, I'm not saying this is on Kimball Walker. I know Kimball
Yeah,
Walker's
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be a pro. I'm talking about the team overall in general. And now the lineup is thinking about being changed again. Like one of the biggest things about the Knicks last season was consistency within the starting lineup. The only reason Tibbs made changes was due to injury,
Injury, yeah.
right? And this season, now we're
But it
talking
was
about changing
working, Josh. It wasn't work this season. It wasn't working.
But
Over
that's what I'm
20.
saying, Steph. I'm not saying it's anything wrong. I understand that we needed to make a change some way, somehow.
Right.
But from the beginning in the offseason to parade this guy around like he was going to be the savior, he's coming home, this, and that, or whatever.
That was the
Well,
fans
the
giving us all
organization did it too.
hope for those of us who disagree, but I digress.
I just feel like it just the way he was paraded out there to be the homecoming guy, coming in as to not save us, but putting him into the starting point guard role right away off the bat, right? Knowing that he had an injury history, and now taking him out the starting lineup and even out that rotation completely when the team is not doing terrible. Yeah, I just think that was a little bit premature. And like I predicted, I think that it just opens a can of worms because now you got to change the lineup again. Alec Burks is not a real point guard. You know what I'm saying? So I just have an issue with that, and hopefully the Knicks can overcome that.
I mean, I don't like. I thought it was a risky move doing it, pulling Kimba like that, and going from starter to non-rotation.
Not even playing, yeah.
I mentioned that when that happened, and but I also mentioned immediately before a game was played without him in the starting lineup that if there's a guy that is gonna handle it the right way, it is Kemba. And the reason that's important in relative to his teammates is because they're the guys that's going to be the closest to him having an attitude about it, venting about it, you know what I mean, mishandling the situation. So the fact that he doesn't do that is good for the team. You know what I mean? Not only
Right.
that, if you watch this man on the bench, you know what I mean, in these 3 games of losses, there's no sulking, there's no pouting. It like he looked like Theo Penson out there in these last 3 games cheering on his team. Like
Yeah.
you gotta respect that. And like Kemba says, you know what I mean, you gotta respect Tibbs.
What happens if the losses start mounting up?
That's when the changes will come. That's
Right.
according
If
to
the
Tibbs.
losses start mounting up, listen. It's hard for me to believe that we're 0-3 because Kimba was out of the rotation.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
I'm
I
saying
think he was a problem. I don't think he was the problem, as
that.
someone said on Twitter today. And I agree with that. The Knicks have a lot of problems. There's a lot of blame if you're into blaming, to go around. Um, I was okay with him coming out of the starting lineup. I didn't know about Burks though. I was more a proponent of Rose, but for whatever reason, Tibbs
Mm-hmm.
does not want him in that starting lineup, and I don't know why. Because he could play the same amount of minutes.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I don't know why either. Um, Vaughn Allen says the fact that the move was made public hurt the team's morale and chemistry. What little they had. I think the fact it was gonna be made public regardless.
right.
Like as soon as
We
the
would have
game
been
started,
asking, like, why is he not
and
playing at
and
all?
that avoided all of that. Now, had it been made public before Kemba was notified or before Kemba knew, that would be a
Right.
different, a different story. But I mean, obviously he
Yeah.
was asked, and he said Kemba. They had the conversation with Kemba and whatever the case. So I think I don't know, man. We'll talk more on the Queen's Court. I appreciate you guys joining me as always. We got about 30 minutes before Queen's Court comes on. Any last words, you guys?
I think it. Go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Queen.
I think if it wasn't for that Denver loss, we would be singing a different tune. Because I thought the Knicks looked okay in the Nets and the Chicago
I
game.
agree.
Though down the stretch, we just couldn't close. And so I don't want to overreact to an early Denver game, a 1 p.m. game, only to say that last year's team didn't seem to have a problems with early games. But, so I'm not going to overreact to that game. Without that game, I was like, we right there. With that game, I'm like, maybe not.
And that was the game I saw the least of the past three games because I haven't even got to watch a full game this past week
Right,
being at work. But
right,
I'm glad I missed that.
right. But I'm not giving up on this team. I'm not giving up on Tibbs. We still have an opportunity to turn it around. But I just think we need some roster additions.
Yeah.
I agree. I think we need some roster additions. I'm not going to go too crazy because in the overall big picture, the Knicks are not cap strapped. They have the ability to go out and bring some players in with the flexible contracts that they bought. However, I just thought that in the offseason, they didn't do what they needed to do to address some of these teams' needs, right? And I think if we're looking at it from that standpoint, and the fact that the Knicks are rebuilding and they're in that mode, there's no reason to panic at all. Like I'm perfectly fine with the Knicks right now having 10-11 record. I think it is right, something.
Yeah.
10-11 record right now. I think the season is still long. I think the Knicks can improve. I think the Knicks can still make the playoffs. I'm not looking into what the playoff standings are right now. I think it's going to be moved around 20 more times before the season's done. So I'm not giving up on this team. If the team does not improve and they're still playing this kind of 500 level basketball, I think that can make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. And then we look to upgrade the team either at the trade deadline or perhaps in the offseason. But they didn't upgrade the team in the offseason, and that's the biggest problem that I have.
Right.
I mean, I think they attempted to upgrade. I think it did. I think it didn't work.
Okay, you want me to give
I
them
mean,
some participation trophy for attempting to upgrade the team?
I mean, it just didn't work. Is you know what I mean? It's not like they didn't intend. Why they didn't go after Ball? Why they didn't go after Laurie? You know what I mean? If you're being more specific in that, I can I get it because I expected looks at least some of these point guards
or
that were
DeRozan.
or
I
DeRozan's the one
think
who
they
wanted.
did, though. I
and,
think they did. But obviously we don't know what happened. I think they did put their feelers out for Lowry, and he told them how much he wanted. And I don't think the Knicks was going to pay that. And he had his best friend or one of his good friends, Butler, in Miami. That was that. And I think the same thing happened with Chicago. The Knicks weren't willing. They put their feelers out there and kind of got a sense of what Ball was looking for. And they weren't willing to pay it. Like a lot of this conversation happens even before free agency starts.
Obviously, with the
Obviously.
with
Can
the
I
fine.
can I say something to Greg before we close? Can I show his
Absolutely.
comment? Is it all right to show
Absolutely.
the comment?
Yes.
I appreciate you, Greg. But I have to say, Greg, I disagree. I think that, the offense may flow better when Randall is out for a few games or whatever. But I think over the long haul, if you don't have Randall on this team, you're gonna see how bogged down the offense is gonna get. I think it's really good to look good in a short period of time. I think it's hard to look good for 30 minutes a game. And the other thing I will say is, and this is for all of the fans, like if you look at the games over the past 3, 4 games, Randall hasn't even been hogging the ball. So I think as fans, we kind of get onto one thing and we just hold on to it, even if the player's game changes. We still hold on to that. I think he hasn't even been facilitating the offense as much the past um, um, 4 games. So I appreciate you, but I would have to disagree with that. It may flow better, but over the long haul, you will see it would not.
And there you have it. The Queen has spoken. And for more from the Queen, tune in at 8:30 for the Queen's Court on the MBK channel. Josh,
Appreciate
what
you.
you got coming
You
up?
two guys will be there, right? And Cornerstone is joining us as well.
Nice.
Oh, we got the cornerstone coming.
Cornerstone Cat.
He gonna be
Um,
counting. Better not talk about the rookies.
so yeah, I got some ideas for my next episode of the controversy. Should be coming soon. Probably gonna do something either this weekend or early into next week. Let's see if the Knicks can be able to rebound. If not, I'll definitely have a lot to say. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate you guys for joining me. I'll see you in a few minutes, 20 minutes or so. Shout out to the chat as always. Your
Always.
Blackest Time. Yeah.